Hi, it's Lee, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. I think everyone is far too hung up on this $66,000 price tag for the Model Y, or this whole Teslas are too expensive, they can't be mainstream mentality. I'm starting to think that this is one of the reasons the stock is not performing as well. The market may now think that Tesla has niched themselves as a luxury EV and not going to be mainstream brand for EVs in the future, and that market will be left for the Chinese. So many people keep telling me that Tesla have priced them out of the market. Now, bear in mind, this is just the long-range Model Y in the US. Tesla also offer lower-cost EVs too, like a rear-wheel drive Model 3 for $20,000 less. I actually have to hear this quite a lot, but I think these are just disappointed consumers who really want a Model Y, but now it's out of their price range. But what difference does it make if Tesla still sell every car? At least as far as investors are concerned. In fact, this is all good for the stock price. It just shows how strong demand is and how much value the vehicle offers that enough people are still willing to pay that much for it. Besides, the car gets $7,500 off next year, so that makes it more affordable for many. But looking at the sticker price of the product, at least as an investor, is not what's important. I mean, if that was the case, then we might think that legacy autos are going to win. I mean, a Nissan Leaf is around the mid-20,000s, vastly undercutting a Tesla. I think as stockholders, it's far more prudent to focus on the actual cost at which Tesla are making their vehicles. I also get bombarded with people continually telling me that Chinese EVs are going to outsell Tesla as they cost less. Well, they may cost less to buy, but what matters is that they cost more to make. That's what matters. Remember, the Chinese are losing money on their BEV businesses, and legacy too, all because they're trying to compete with Tesla. And despite lower prices, they still don't have close to the demand Tesla does, even when they try to offer 3 or 4 times as many different EV models than Tesla offer. Tesla have so much demand just with 2 models as it is. Well, even enough for just 1 model. The Model Y is so popular, Tesla are barely even bothering to expand Model 3 production. And Tesla don't just sell every vehicle they make, they have a massive waiting list for future vehicles they're going to make. Also, this future list is not even linear, as in not linear to a consistent production rate. No, this list actually is also taking in consideration Tesla's ramping and increased production over the period of this waiting list at what might be around 50% a year or so, or what looks like to be even more. So bear that in mind too, as I don't think many people even consider that fact. So many people, and I really do hear this daily, love telling me how I'm so wrong about Tesla and the Chinese EVs. The overall narrative being that I'm wrong to think that so many car buyers can afford to buy a Tesla, and that Tesla will not be the mainstream EV player, but more on the luxury end, and it'll be the Chinese companies that come in at the bottom of the market and outsell Tesla as more people can afford a Chinese EV. Well, these Chinese EVs have a mission to try and make as much profit as they can, which will eventually saturate when they hit their market clearing price. Tesla, well, they have a mission too, to ensure that we transition the world to sustainable energy. There are 2 billion ICE vehicles to replace. This includes used vehicles too. There's still only a small portion of the world who can even afford a brand new Chinese EV as it is. How are we going to get the rest of the world to non-renewable transport? Tesla have to do whatever it takes to achieve this, but with their software and AI capabilities, they're able to leverage vehicles with this technology as never before seen. With things like robotaxis and robobuses, suddenly one EV can replace perhaps as many as 50 ICE vehicles. No one is going to make 2 billion EVs to replace the entire fleet. It would take almost a century, even for Tesla. New solutions need to be sought. Robobuses with capacities of perhaps a couple of dozen at a time are going to offer so much leverage, whilst also cutting down on congestion. It would just be a numbers game when economies of scale kick in, and the fact that Tesla can undercut even the cost of a Wuling when it comes to cost per miles travelled. No, not everyone will be able to afford a Tesla, but everyone, absolutely everyone in the world may be able to afford to use a Tesla. No one else is going to be able to do this. Tesla just about already have. Even vehicles from a decade ago have the necessary hardware. And many in developed nations will still be able to afford their own private Tesla that will eventually drive itself. And Tesla are without a doubt going to be the mainstream AV player too, as no one else can make autonomous with no signs of them coming, as we've seen over the last few years just how difficult a task this has been for Tesla and simply how much is involved. And Tesla are making the world's most powerful computer in order to do this, with the world's best engineers. Do you think BYD or Ford have the skill set to make a computer that powerful, or have any kind of clue? People are going to pay for AV a lot of money and a lot of people. And before you say, not everyone can afford $200 or maybe $300 a month, well, sure, I never suggested they could. However, someone who can afford a brand new Tesla most likely can. For those who cannot, can still benefit from robotaxis. But remember, the reason Teslas are so expensive, as they like to say, isn't due to them costing a lot to build. It's due to Tesla not being able to make enough to cater to the overwhelming demand they have. But Tesla are building more factories and expanding production and won't stop all decade. Eventually, they may even reach a point where they actually make enough Model Ys and 3s for the market. And how low might the price be then? Well, what about a Model 3? Tesla even used to sell them for as little as $35,000 at one stage. Years ago, that was obviously at Fremont, where they were barely at volume production using 2170 nickel cells. Oh, and no structural battery pack, no front and rear die casting. I think that Tesla could truly get the cost of a Model 3 down to possibly $15,000 per vehicle, perhaps excluding a little inflation here and there, but either way, it is clear there is so much opportunity to get the cost of that car down. They could also be using LMFP cells, manganese with iron phosphate cathode, which would be incredibly low cost, and perhaps in the 4680 form as a structural battery pack. These should be capable of mid 300 miles of range, which is about what Tesla are getting on the long-range Model 3 now, except, as we said, the cost is down significantly. Tesla could possibly sell them for around $30,000. It would just depend on getting the price point right. I think software limit the range to perhaps 280 miles and the acceleration to around 6 seconds to 60, then offer upgrades to perhaps 350 miles and 5 seconds to 60. Also offer other options like faster charging speeds. And remember, this is not some basic low-cost EV. This is still a Tesla, a robot smart car that can drive itself. If you're complaining about not being able to afford a $60,000 Tesla, okay, sure, it kind of sucks not being able to have a Tesla, and $60,000 is still a fair amount of money. It's sometimes just not possible in any way for people to come up with those kinds of funds. But $30,000? Well, just about anyone in the US can find that much money for a new Tesla, if they really wanted to, given all the cost savings. And I even had a Patreon member telling me that I'd convinced him to buy a Model 3 from one of my videos about how affordable they are, and even took my advice on Uber driving with it to help with the payments. It just depends how badly you want it. Most people have plenty of time to watch YouTube, TikTok, Netflix, or even TV, which they could quite easily be using to Uber to cover their finance payments. It's just about priorities. And then once that car is paid off in perhaps 5 years' time, well, instead of getting a new car, they can spend a further $10,000 to improve the range and performance and unlock other features the vehicle might have. You might think this is bad business for Tesla, when they should be looking for repeat business and trying to get customers to keep buying a new Tesla as regularly as possible. But no, I don't think that's Tesla's business model, which is why the car gets these free updates all the time. A big reason for a lot of people to buy a new car is for new features. Yet Tesla just give them to us for free. Why, if that's bad for business? Because Tesla don't need any more demand. And if there's a $30,000 Tesla for sale, then they really don't need any more demand. On top of that, I have a feeling that if there was a Tesla around these lower sort of price points, it won't be customers who are looking at getting a new car currently to replace their old one. I think it'd be everyone looking to replace their car. It's new technology with better living standards. No need to wait a few more years and get a bit more mileage out of the old car. Just dump it now and get your Tesla. Yes, Tesla's demand could truly be above 100 million a year if they so chose. Of course, the major new technology would be FSD. Why wait 3 more years driving your BMW when you can sell it now and not have to drive a Tesla? You know, because it would drive for you. And then Tesla have all these extra customers who can afford these lower cost Teslas. Well, the ASP will be down, although margins could be just as high. Due to a lower cost vehicle, gross profit per vehicle sale will be lower. However, the profit from the FSD will make it higher again. And then people can probably upgrade their cars too. Ownership length might be a different paradigm. We might think about owning a Tesla for 10 years, maybe even 20. Perhaps eventually the seats might need to be reupholstered or something, but Tesla can offer all those services. And the car is modular, so new chips and other various hardware parts can be added over time. Tesla service centers will eventually become very profitable, but not because their parts are wearing and tearing, but because the consumers simply want to upgrade them. Anyway, the entire point is that Tesla can choose to offer much lower prices whenever they wish and still make a huge profit. The lower prices can undercut all the competitors and still make said profits. Whilst the competition are still losing money, Tesla will be able to manufacture faster than any of them too. As an investor, this is all what matters, and the potential addressable market is so big that all the competition should be welcome, as we need to transition as fast as possible, and none of the competition are going to take Tesla's market share. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.